Your favorite artist's music probably trained an AI music generator, and they never gave permission, never got paid, and never even knew it happened. This week, The Atlantic released a searchable database showing exactly which songs went into AI music systems when they were added, and which companies used them. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of songs from every era and genre, some that trained Spotify's AI DJ, some that powered stable audio, some that fed Google's music LM. But here's what's wild. Before this database existed, all of it was completely hidden. Musicians couldn't see if their work was being stolen. Labels couldn't track licensing violations. AI companies kept the details deliberately vague, buried in technical papers that nobody reads. Now, for the first time ever, there's a single searchable place where you can enter an artist's name or song title and see exactly which AI systems used their music. It's like opening a vault and discovering your life's work was duplicated without consent. This database isn't just a list of songs, it's proof of something artists have suspected all along, that their creative work was treated as raw material for a corporate gold rush, not as art made by actual human beings who deserve respect and compensation. To understand why the Atlantic's database is such a big deal, we need to rewind and understand how AI music generators even exist. Starting around 2018, machine learning researchers realized they could train neural networks on massive collections of songs, millions of recordings, and teach AI to understand patterns in music. Like, how do certain instruments work together? What makes a beat feel natural? How do melodies flow from one note to the next? The problem is, where do you get millions of songs legally and transparently? The answer for years was, you don't ask permission. You just download them from anywhere you can find them, use them, and bury the details in appendices nobody reads. Companies like Spotify, Google, and OpenAI all quietly incorporated music into their training datasets. Some datasets were academic, released by universities with minimal attribution. Some were compiled by researchers from scraping online sources. Some were licensed, some were absolutely not. But nobody could see which datasets contained which songs, so there was no way for artists to know they'd been used, no way for rights holders to negotiate, and no way for anyone to challenge whether it was actually legal. It was like someone built a massive machine that invisibly consumed culture, and we all just accepted it as normal. So what exactly is the Atlantic's database, and how does it work? Think of it like a reverse image search for music, but instead of finding where a photo appears online, you're finding where a song was used in AI training. The Atlantic compiled publicly available research papers, datasets, and documentation from AI music companies and universities, then indexed them all in one searchable interface. Now you can type in an artist name, let's say Radiohead, and see exactly which AI systems trained on Radiohead songs. You'll see things like which dataset the songs came from when they were added, which company used them, and even links to the source papers. For example, you might discover that 4 Radiohead tracks ended up in the MusicNet dataset, which was then used by Stable Audio, Google, and Meta. Or you might find a remix album of yours in the FMA dataset, the Free Music Archive, which was released for AI research without explicit artist consent. The database covers hundreds of thousands of songs across multiple AI training datasets. It includes commercial music, indie artists, remixes, and obscure tracks that you'd never expect to find there. It's comprehensive, searchable, and for the first time, it puts all the hidden training data in one place where anyone can see it. So let's get concrete. What happens when you actually use this database? You open it up, type in Taylor Swift, and you see that multiple Swift tracks were used in different datasets. Or you search jazz classics and discover that whole catalogs of vintage jazz recordings ended up in training sets, sometimes without the heirs of those artists even knowing. One category that shows up a lot: remix collections and independent artist compilations. Someone uploaded their indie album to a dataset labeled AI Training Music, and now it's everywhere, from Spotify's AI DJ training to Stable Audio. Another example, music from Creative Commons licensed platforms got incorporated into datasets without clear attribution. The database shows you the chain, which specific songs, which datasets, which AI companies used them, and when. You can also see datasets that include video game music, royalty-free stock music, and classical recordings from the public domain. But here's what's eye-opening: there are gaps. The database only shows data from disclosed datasets and papers. Proprietary AI companies like OpenAI and Google probably have training data that never gets disclosed publicly, so their music data isn't in this database yet. It's the most comprehensive public record we have, but it's still just the tip of the iceberg of all the music that's actually been consumed by AI systems worldwide. How does the Atlantic's database compare to what we've seen before in the AI world? For years, AI companies treated their training data like trade secrets. Image generation companies like Stable Diffusion were sued because artists claimed their work was in the training set, but there was no way to verify what was actually used. OpenAI trained GPT models on internet text, but wouldn't disclose exactly where it came from. Google's AI systems trained on YouTube videos without clear consent mechanisms. For music specifically, there were lawsuits filed by artists against companies like Spotify claiming their music was used in training, but without a database, those claims were hard to prove. So the Atlantic's release is genuinely unprecedented. It's like going from a completely opaque system to suddenly having a partial window into what's inside. That said, there are limitations. This database only covers publicly documented datasets. Big AI labs like OpenAI, Google DeepMind, and Meta probably have proprietary music data they've never disclosed, data that might be even larger than what the Atlantic found. So we are seeing maybe half the picture, or even less. It's a major step forward for transparency, but it's also a reminder that the real training datasets used by the most powerful AI companies might be even more extensive than this database suggests. The Atlantic gave us a key to unlock one vault, but we don't know how many vaults are still locked behind closed doors. So why does this matter beyond just satisfying curiosity? Because this database has real consequences. First, for artists, some musicians are discovering that their work was used in AI training systems that now compete with them. Imagine being a composer and finding out that your entire discography trained an AI that now generates royalty-free music that studios use instead of hiring you. That's a direct financial threat. Second, for copyright law, this database becomes evidence. It shows exactly which music was used, when, and by whom. Artists and labels can now build legal cases on solid ground instead of speculation. If you can prove your songs were in a training dataset, you have a much stronger position in a copyright lawsuit. Third, for the AI industry, this transparency creates pressure. Companies can no longer hide behind vague language. They have to justify why specific artists' work was included, whether licenses were obtained, and what compensation should be offered. It's forcing the industry to reckon with the fact that they've been treating human creativity as a free resource. And that's the bigger point. This database represents a fundamental change from opacity to accountability. For the first time, the cost of using music for AI training is becoming visible. And once costs are visible, you can't pretend they don't exist. If you want to check the Atlantic's database yourself, here's how. First, you go to the Atlantic's website and find the music database. It's completely free and open to everyone, no login required, no paywalls. Next, you can search in several ways. You can type in an artist name, Dua Lipa, Drake, Pink Floyd, and see if any of their songs appear in AI training datasets. You can also search by song title. Search by dataset name if you know which one you're looking for, or browse by category. The results show you which datasets contain that music, which AI companies used those datasets when they were added, and links to the source papers. You can also filter by dataset type. Maybe you only want to see music that went into commercial AI systems, not academic research. Once you find your music, what then? You have options. If you're an artist, you can document that your work was used. You can contact AI companies and demand compensation or licensing agreements. You can talk to an intellectual property lawyer about filing a lawsuit if you believe you've been wronged. You can share your findings on social media to raise awareness. You could even contact the Atlantic's reporters. They are continuing to investigate this story, and evidence from artists themselves is extremely valuable. The database is just the first step. What you do with that information is up to you. The Atlantic's music database is a turning point. For years, AI companies operated in almost total secrecy when it came to training data. They could point to a pile of research papers and say we used publicly available datasets, but what did that actually mean? You couldn't verify it, you couldn't challenge it, you couldn't even know if your own work was in there. Now, suddenly there's sunlight, and sunlight changes behavior. Artists are starting to organize. Some are discussing class action lawsuits. Labels are demanding transparency reports. The European Union is already writing regulations that will require AI companies to disclose training data sources. The Canadian Parliament is considering copyright protections for creators. This isn't just about music anymore, it's about the entire principle of whether AI companies can use human creativity as a free resource. The Atlantic handed us a tool to see one piece of the puzzle, but the real question ahead is, what happens next? Will AI companies fight to keep their training data secret? Will they negotiate licenses with artists? Will governments pass laws that require consent and compensation? Those answers will shape whether AI becomes a tool that respects human creativity or a system that extracts value from it without permission. Stay tuned to this channel for daily coverage of how this story unfolds, because the decisions made right now will define the future of creative work in the AI era. Follow for daily AI news.